Assalamu alaikum, guys, and welcome back to the third lecture series on the mystics of the prayer. Inshallah, everyone is keeping well, and I hope that your fasts are going well as well. It's now the third day of Ramadan. I feel like that the reserves are starting to finish up, and now it's starting to catch up on us. But inshallah, may Allah give you guys the strength to continue fasting, and may Allah accept. Inshallah, Sayyidina, if you're ready, then we'll get straight into the lecture.
Thank you very much, Brother Ahfad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها والصلاة والسلام على عبده المرتضى ورسوله المجتبى وحبيبه المصطفى الذي سماه في السماوات أحمدا وفي الأرض أبا القاسم محمدا وعلى الأطيبين من آله البرر سيما حجة الله الباقية اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وأهلك أعداءهم أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Perhaps the biggest difference between Islam and that which is not Islam, and therefore is an Islamic civilization and a non-Islamic civilization, or an Islamic worldview and a non-Islamic worldview, an Islamic lifestyle and a non-Islamic lifestyle. There are many differences, and people often, discuss them. Muslims discuss them. Individuals who oppose Islam discuss them. And for example, there is a difference regarding the view of women and the role of women, right? Islam has a perspective and others have different perspectives. There's a difference about how to raise children. There's a difference about what kinds of behavior are appropriate in society. There's a difference about laws. There is a difference about so many things. But maybe all of these differences aren't actually the main difference. Maybe the actual difference is something else, and these are just the effects of that difference. I'd like to discuss that difference today because it's related very much to our discussion. And that difference is that Islam defines al-insan, the human being, in a certain manner. And like we mentioned, Islam is for the human being. A human being which is defined as being a spiritual being with physicality, a worldview, an understanding of existence, a lifestyle, civilization that sees the human being in this light is going to be very different to a worldview, a lifestyle, and a civilization that believes man is just this physicality. Very different. In any case, we are discussing salah, the prayer. The prayer is a part of Islam, so we needed to discuss Islam, and Islam is all about al-insan, the human being. So we need to discuss the human being. And we mentioned some verses of Quran yesterday speaking about that, and we won't repeat them to take the time of brothers and sisters. We'll continue from where we left off, inshallah. In short, In Islam, al-insan, the human being, cannot be defined without Allah. You cannot define the human being without God. You cannot remove God from the equation and say, but we still have the human being. No, it doesn't work like that. You know what that's like? Trying to define al-insan, the human being, man, you and me, our reality, our real identity, trying to understand that identity, trying to know who we really are. But taking God out of the equation, you know what that's like? That is like trying to define the ocean without using the word water. Is it possible? Can you explain to Donald the alien, who's never seen the ocean, can you explain to him the meaning of the word ocean without first explaining the meaning of the word water? Are we saying that the water and the ocean are the same? No. When I say water, it has one meaning. When I say ocean, a different meaning comes to your mind, right? But can you define ocean without using the word water? Or without defining water? You can't. That is like defining man without God, without Allah. It cannot be done. It cannot be done. Can you define, sunlight? Can you define, sun rays, those beams of light that emerge from the sun and enter into, your homes through your windows? Can you define sun ray without using the word sun? Is it possible? Does that mean the sun and the ray is the same? No, it's not the same. But in order to know what the ray is, you need to know what the sun is. Because that ray is just the effect of the sun. That's all it is. So again, these are some examples to help understand something of this reality. Man cannot be defined without Allah. Cannot be done. We're not saying it shouldn't be done. No, we're saying it can't be done. Can you put your hand inside water without your hand getting wet? Of course, considering there's no barrier, there's no glove. Just like this, put your hand inside water. Is it possible it doesn't get wet? If it doesn't get wet, what do you conclude? What you put your hand inside was not water. So are you saying man shouldn't put his hand inside water so that it doesn't get wet? No, we're saying it's impossible. Try it. Try defining. Feel free. Try to define the ocean without using the word water. You're very welcome, but it's impossible. Try putting your hand inside water without your hand getting wet. It's impossible. Try putting your hand inside the fire. Don't try this, of course. But for as an example, can someone put their hand inside the fire without their hand getting burnt? It's impossible, right? Similarly, man cannot be defined without Allah. You cannot minus Allah from the equation and still have insan. It's impossible. It doesn't exist. And it's the reason that everything in Islam revolves around Allah. Because you cannot be defined. Your identity. Okay, if you want to know your identity, who you really are, you have to know Him first. Okay, because you're His creation. And allow me to mention some verses of Quran. The month of Ramadan is it's the Rabi' al-Quran, as the narrations mentioned. It's the spring of the Quran. And when, it's interesting, when we often think about the month of Ramadan, the first thing that comes to my mind is fasting. But when the Quran introduces Shahr Ramadan, the first thing it mentions is Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. The first thing it tells you about Shahr Ramadan is it's the month in which the Quran came down. What does the Quran say? Surah 8, Ayah 24. Allah the Exalted says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ. Know one thing. That, and before I translate, qalb is often translated as heart. Okay? In the language of the Quran, it doesn't always mean the physical heart. Qalb means nafs, it means self, it means soul as well. Okay? The verse says, know that Allah comes between a man, a human being, a person, and his own heart. Meaning, know this, that Allah comes between you and your own self. How are you trying to define yourself without Allah? What does that mean? What kind of closeness is that? And He's closer to you than you yourself? It's a clear verse of Quran. What do you understand from that? He comes between you and you. Another verse of Quran. Surah 50, Ayah 16. Allah the Exalted says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. It is we who have created man, and we know very well what his soul whispers to him, and we are closer to man than his neck vein. How close is the vein of your neck to you? Allah is saying we're closer to you than the vein of your own neck. And of course, it's not physical closeness. Allah is not a physical entity. But neither are we. We are a spiritual entity with physicality. Another verse of Quran. Surah 50, Ayah 6. Oh, I apologize. I think I've got the reference wrong over here, because this one was 5016. So I'm sorry. I don't have the exact address. Inshallah, I'll send it in the notes later in the group, or I'll give it to the Ahfad. But the verse says the following. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ أخذ ربك من بني آدم من ظهورهم ذريتهم وأشهدهم على أنفسهم ألست بربكم قالوا بلى شهدنا أن تقولوا يوم القيامة إنا كنا عن هذا غافلين. Incredible verse of Quran. Incredible, you know. And when we took from the loins of the children of Adam, we took out the progeny of the children of Adam, it appears it's speaking about a realm before this realm. Okay? We took all the human beings that were going to be created till Judgment Day. We took all of them before coming to this world. When we took them, and أشهدهم على أنفسهم could have one meaning, which means we made them testify against their own self, but we'll discuss another meaning after this, okay? We made them witness against their own self, or testify against their own self. Allah is saying, أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ? We ask them, am I not your Lord? Allah is asking us, am I not your Lord? Am I not your Rabb? Am I not your God? Am I not Allah? قَالُوا بَلَى. All of them said, yes, you are. شَهِدْنَا. We testify. And Allah says in the end of the verse, أَن تَقُولُوا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ إِنَّا كُنَّا عَنْ هَذَا غَافِلِينَ. Don't come on the day of judgment and say you forgot this. Don't come on the day of judgment, or at another time, or in the world even. Oh, excuse me, I take that back. It says يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, so we we take what the verse says. Excuse me for that. Don't come on judgment day saying I'd forgotten about this. This, you know, this testimony that I gave. Okay. We said that أشهدهم على أنفسهم could mean he made them testify against their own self. But shahada means witnessing also. It means to see something. أشهدهم على أنفسهم. The great Muslim scholar Ayatollah Murtada Mutahhari rahmatullah alayh quotes his teacher, the great Allama Tabatabai rahmatullah alayh, regarding this verse, mentioning such a beautiful point, which is so important in our discussion. And I'm paraphrasing the point. He says, the verse is saying, أَشْهَدَهُمْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah made them see, made all of us see our own selves, and then asked us, أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ? Am I not your Lord? And we all said yes. He gives an example, such a beautiful, delicate, and subtle example. You know what he says? He says, you know what that's like? It's like me telling you, stand in front of a mirror. Stand in front of a mirror, look at yourself, and then I ask you, did you see me? I tell you, look in the mirror, look closely. Then I say to you, did you see me? And all of us said yes. That's how close God is to man. You cannot define man without him. It's as if, and you know, the beautiful thing is, it says Allah made them see, witness their own selves. And then he asked, am I not your Lord? And all of us said, yes, you are. Shahidna, we bear witness, and we witnessed it. We've seen it. That's how close Allah is to man. Man can't be defined without Allah. And in, that very, that treasure of Allama Tabatabai, rahmatullah alayh, his book, Risalatul Wilaya, he brings some narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam regarding this. I'd like to read them to the brothers and sisters, and we continue our discussion, inshallah. Regarding this verse, Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, it's related, he was asked about this verse of Quran that we just mentioned. And it's related that Imam alayhi salam said, فَعَرَّفَهُمْ نَفْسَهُ, Allah made them know him. وَأَرَاهُمْ نَفْسَهُ, and he made them see and witness him. وَلَوْلَا ذَلِكَ, and had that not been the case, مَا عَرَفَ أَحَدٌ رَبَّهُ, no one could ever have known their Lord. The reason we're able to know him in this world is because of a previous knowledge we already had. And this was knowledge of the heart, not of the mind. It was a knowledge we saw something with our hearts, with our beings. We understood something. Another narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, and again, a person might ask, why is it none of us can remember that day? It's related that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked about this, and it's related, he said alayhi salam, فَثَبَتَتْ الْمَعْرِفَةِ وَنَسَوْا الْمَوْقِفِ وَسَيَذْكُرُونَهُ وَلَوْلَا ذَلِكَ لَمْ يَدْرِ أَحَدٌ مَنْ خَالِقُهُ وَرَازِقُهُ. That knowledge, that was the result of witnessing, the divine, that remained within us. But that place was forgotten. We forgot where it took place. But that knowledge remained. We came into this world with this knowledge. It just needs to be uncovered. Okay? And what role do you think prayer can play in uncovering that knowledge? It just needs to be uncovered. And the Imam continues, it's related, he says, وَسَيَذْكُرُونَ, in the future they will remember it. Perhaps it's referring to death or after death, I don't know what exactly that is referring to. And had that not been the case, no one would have known their creator. No one would have known their creator and their sustainer. Okay? So we come into this world having witnessed the divine. And our reality is so interconnected with the divine, it cannot be separated. Okay. So what happens when a person forgets Allah? We've defined man in this manner. It's not us who's defined man, the Quran has defined man in this manner. So what happens when you forget Allah? Please pay attention to this verse of Quran, dear brothers and sisters. Surah 59, Ayah 19. Allah the Exalted says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون. And do not be, O people, or O believers, do not be like those who forgot Allah, and as a result, Allah made them forget their own selves. It is they who are the sinful ones. Allahu Akbar. Which psychology is going to teach you this? Which university? Where will you learn this? This profound, spiritual, deep understanding of the human being, which is 100% true. So, sins are the result of forgetting yourself. A person who remembers who he is, he does not sin. She does not sin. And forgetting yourself is a result of forgetting Allah, because you cannot know yourself without knowing Allah. And you cannot remember yourself without remembering Allah, because you are so connected to Him, whether you like it or not. Every particle of existence is only existing because of its connection to Allah, the Exalted. Look how deep this is. It deserves contemplation. These verses deserve contemplation. We can spend so much time on social media, on watching videos, on wasting our lives away, right? We can't spend a fraction of that time contemplating verses of the Quran, these verses which will change your life, will change your reality, will take you to another level of consciousness, and me and all of us. على أي حال. So Allah is saying this. Look, you forget Allah, you forget yourself. If you lose Allah, you've lost your own self. You've forgotten your reality. And thus you're acting in a way that's not befitting of a human being. What has Salah got to do with any of this? Why are we even mentioning this? What has prayer got to do? Where does it come into this picture? Allow me to read a passage of the Quran which we will finish on, inshallah. And the rest I'll leave for the brothers and sisters to contemplate and discover for themselves. Surah 10, Ayah 14. It's part of the story of Moses alayhi salam, Prophet Musa alayhi salam. When he'd, left Egypt, he'd run away, he'd started a family of his own, and now he was with his family, and in the distance he's seeing fire. Of course, Moses had a herd of, cattle or sheep or whatever those animals were. He was a farmer. He had a stick. So he's seeing a fire. Okay? And nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to encounter. Allah the Exalted says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا رأى نارا فقال لأهلهم كثوا إني آنست نارا لعلي آتيكم منها بقبس أو أجد على النار هدى. Musa saw a fire in the distance. He said to his family, wait for me here. Let me go to the fire. Maybe I will come back with some fire, or I'll find some guidance at that fire. فَلَمَّا أَتَاهَا. But when Musa came to that fire, نُودِيَ يَا Musa. He heard a voice. This voice called out, "Oh Musa, إِنِّي أَنَا رَبُّكَ فَاخْلَعْ نَعْلَيْكَ إِنَّكَ بِالْوَادِ الْمُقَدَّسِ طُوًى." Oh Musa, surely it is me, your Lord. So remove your sandals, for surely you are standing in the sacred valley of Tuwa. وَأَنَا اخْتَرْتُكَ. And I have chosen you. فَاسْتَمِعْ لِمَا يُوحَى. So listen carefully to what is being said. إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا. Surely I am Allah. There is no one and nothing worthy of worship beside me. فَعْبُدْنِي. So worship me. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. And establish the salah, the prayer, for the sake of my remembrance, in order to remember me. This is one of the beautiful secrets the Quran has given to us. Why are we turned away? Allah has given, He's given His secrets for free in the Quran to all of us. Why are we turned away? Why am I turned away? All the prophets prayed. Okay? All the prophets prayed. Musa alayhi salam, in this encounter with the divine, he's being told, "Aqim as-salat li-dhikri." Establish the prayer. For what? What's the point of the prayer? What does prayer do? What's it all about? What's the philosophy of the prayer? One thing, li-dhikri, to remember me. The point of prayer is to remember Allah. And what happens when you remember Allah? You remember your own self. Look at what the verse says. Don't be like those who forgot Allah. As a result, they themselves are forgotten. And it is they who are the sinful. So on the opposite side, if you remember Allah, you yourself will be remembered. This is what salah is meant to be. This is what a real prayer does. It's remembering the beloved. But the thing is, when you remember Him, you yourself will be remembered. When you find Him, you will find yourself, because He is so close to you. And your existence, every particle of your existence is from Him and is connected to Him. But you forget, I forget, because we are insan. And insan is the one who nasiya, he forgets. And therefore he needs dhikr, which is reminders. And this salah is a reminder. You come, and have you noticed every single thing in salah is dhikr? Every word you say, it's a remembrance of Allah. And even the positions that your body is in, all of these have meanings. They're all remembrances of Allah the Exalted. It's like a crash course in remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, that you just take for some minutes, and then you find yourself again. If you lost yourself in the day, you find yourself when you pray. But if after you've understood what prayer is, this works, you know. If we're just muttering some things in our tongue, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdih, I don't know what it means. 7 years I'm praying, I never questioned what it meant. It was never important for me to know what Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdih meant. It was never important for me to know what Sami Allahu liman hamidah meant. It was never important for me to know what the reality of ruku' is. Why do we even bow in that way? Why do we do sajda? Why do we sit between two? It was never important for me. Everything was important except for this. Okay, no problem. Spiritual growth is not like physical growth. Physical growth, you can't change it. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. You can't make a decision that from now on, my hair will not grow. No, it grows, you have to cut it. But spiritually, it's the opposite. And you get, spiritually speaking, you get whatever you put in. You put in 1%, you get 1% back. You put in 1 hour, you get 1 hour back. وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. The Quran is clear. Nothing is for man except that for which he strives. Whatever you strive, you're going to receive. As simple as that. So yes, we have individuals who are 70, 80, 90, 100, but spiritually they're still children. And we have individuals who are not even 20, but spiritually they are mountains of understanding and closeness to Allah the Exalted. And we have individuals like that. So Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi said, these individuals who are teenagers, some of them, they traversed spiritually, they traversed the path of 100 years in one night. It's not a joke. It's possible. It's to do with how much effort we make. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who give spirituality our 100%, so that 100% is returned to us. وَسُبْحَانَ رَبِّنَا رَبِّ الْعِزَّةِ عَمَّا يَصِفُونَ وَسَلَامٌ عَلَى الْمُرْسَلِينَ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ الطَّيِّبِينَ الطَّاهِرِينَ اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم